We're back here at the Galveston County Justice Administration Building. County Clerk Dwight Sullivan is with us. His office is in charge of running the elections. And Dwight, right off the bat, got to ask, what happened today?
Well, this morning when the polls opened, we started getting phone calls at about 6 o'clock, 6:15, that the tape was taking a little bit longer to run than we expected and that they expected. At that point, we had deployed some teams to take additional tape in case we ran out. What really happened is the machines, based on the vote centers that we're conducting in Galveston County, have programmed in them every ballot, every proposition, countywide, precinct-wide, on every machine. So it takes a whole lot of data. That data prints out what's called a zero tape at the beginning of the day to assure that all the votes, there's no prior votes on the machine, and it zeroes out and you start clean. After that report runs, you enter your code and the polls are open. So it took a while to run that report, upwards of an hour. Some of the polling locations were open on time at 7 o'clock, and many were not. So we thought what we do was right and open voting a couple hours longer. We worked with the parties and had a court order to do that, and it seems like it's working well now.
Yeah, things did smooth out. And explain a little bit more about, you talk about the tape. This is a system, a checks and balances system to make sure, hey, the system has zero votes to start on election day. This is not something you can do a week ahead of time or anything. It has to be that morning, right?
It's all about integrity, and we want to make sure that every vote counts, and therefore, as a state requirement and as a requirement of our office, we want to make sure that the tape shows zero so that there's no prior election data, and the judge at that location assures that there's no data on there. And because of that, it took a long time. We didn't anticipate it taking an hour or so. That's something that we just didn't anticipate with the vote centers, and nor did the vendor tell us about that. But we're making the most of it. We've had bipartisan help. We've had county commissioners from both sides working with us to get the word out, and the news media has been very, very helpful as well.
And it's one of those things, too. In the old days, or I say old days, just even in the last election, it'd be precinct by precinct, and this would take place. It wouldn't take that long because there's not that many elections. And this time, or many races at a different precinct. In this case, you had 45 senators all having to do the same thing, and just took long. So I take it for the future, people are going to be having to start a little bit earlier to get the machines up and running.
Absolutely. We've learned a lot in the county vote centers. We're one of the guinea pigs for the state of Texas as well. I think we're number 5 in the state that's done it. And this is just something that obviously we didn't know about, and so we're working through it, and we're making sure that every vote counts. So we've extended the polls to 8:54 p.m. today. So if you haven't gone out, you still have time to go out and cast your ballot.
And at 8:54, now let's talk about that, though, because that's a little different, too. If you were in line by 7, everything's as normal. If you come in after 7 o'clock or get in line after 7 and vote up until that 8:54 time period, it's going to be a provisional ballot, right? That's a little different. That's in states. Is that in the state election code? How did that come about?
That's in the state administrative code, and that was suggested by one of the parties of the state, as well as Keith Ingram at the Secretary of State's office, who's over elections. Apparently, it is state law. We found out this morning that if you extend polling times, this is the route you do it. And so we're following the law. We want to make sure every vote counts, and that's what we're doing.
And the main thing for that is if someone comes and challenges it later, you're able to show this is how many people, these are the votes that happened after that time period on the extended period. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I would assume that's what it's for. But, I don't know much about why the law was written that way, but I'm assuming that's what it was.
We've talked about the problems. Let's talk about the good things. Early voting went very smoothly and on near record.
That's right. We had great numbers early voting, almost record turnout. I think we were 300 shy of meeting the 08 numbers. Everything went very smooth. The e-poll books were a hit. Everyone gets to vote for their own candidate, and that's what we want. We want to make sure every vote counts. And sure, it's going to delay it a couple hours tonight, but we want to make sure we're doing the right thing and that your vote counts.
And the other thing is, how has turnout been today? Because such a huge early vote turnout. What's it been looking like today? What type of numbers do you think we're going to be seeing?
The numbers today, I don't know the answer to that. We will find out at probably 10, 11 o'clock tonight, so I don't want to speculate on that. There have been some good turnouts, as I've heard, North County especially, and some in the lower county, and we will know tonight.
We knew some long lines even at 7 o'clock and then a little bit afterwards, right?
Uh-huh.
All right.
We thought that the spots that were going to be hot, and they were. We had the Civic Center in League City was, the last I checked, probably the hottest spot in the county. Nestler Center was hot. down here. Weiss was pretty good, as well as the community center on Broadway in Galveston.
Great. All right. Dwight Sullivan, the county clerk, on with us here today. More election coverage coming your way next.